Well, hey everybody, it's been a little while, but now let's continue with part 3 of Rahdo runs through his game shelf. Alright, so let's get over there, get down with my bad self, and here we are, starting at the bottom, working all our way up this particular shelf. Okay, starting off with Suburbia. Done a run through for this a year ago, I think. This is an awesome game. This is by far one of the best games of last year. Absolutely amazing. Really cool tile laying game where there's a, not an auction, but you're basically drawing these different tiles represent different elements of the city every turn, and then expanding not your city but your own suburb of a major city. And that's actually probably one of the coolest things about it is both players are working on their own suburbs of a central city. So when I lay down certain tiles, it could affect my other tiles around it, and it could also affect Jen's tiles on the other side of town. So it's a really, really cool game, very fast. This is definitely something with a little bit of coaxing you could play with newbies, but it has a lot of variety. Every time you play it's going to be a little bit different. An expansion for it just came out. I'll probably be doing a run through before too long of that. Amazing game. Probably, for our money, the best city building board game there is. Suburbia from Ted Alspach. Wonderful game. Next up, New Amsterdam. The Dutch West India Trading Company from Jeffrey Allers, who is a great designer. He's also done one of our other favorites, Eliact S, which I talked about over there, I think, in part 2. This is a very, very cool game that is all about the founding of, well, basically of New York as we know it today. Basically, it used to be owned by a bunch of Native Americans, and the Dutch West India Company moved in. And the interesting thing about this game is you can see you're kind of building up control of a city, and you put more of your little buildings in all these different sections of what is going to become New York. And those give you different abilities. But on the other side of the map, what's happening is the Native American tribes who are local, you can engage with them in trade and send those trade goods back to the old world to score a lot of points, which is great. But the more buildings get built as part of the new city, and the more settlers move in, the more the Native Americans kind of get pushed out. And the harder it is, that's what these arrows indicate, the harder it is to actually engage in trade. And so it's actually a really, really interesting game that, on one level is just, very, very cool economic. It also has a very, very neat, smart, innovative auction element as well. Every turn where you auction for the actions you get to do. But actually, I think what we respect most about this game is that it deals with the other side of kind of imperial expansionism that you never see in these games, where what happens to the natives and how they get pushed out and how that actually affects you. It's a very, it's just a great game, but then the fact that it tackles that kind of thematic subject matter makes it an awesome game. We really, really admire and respect and enjoy New Amsterdam. Okay, Airlines Europe. We've only played this once. We thought it was kind of nice. And, oh gosh, it's been over a year. I hardly remember it at all. We need to play it again. But as I recall, it is a game about building train routes. It's a kind of Ticket to Ride. It's from Alan Moon, the designer of Ticket to Ride. But instead of building train routes, you're building plane routes and, laying down these colored planes that represent the different companies. And while you're doing that, you can also buy and sell stock in those companies. So you may have a vested interest to make sure one company does really well because you have more stocks in them, and so you'll try to expand them. But if somebody else has stock in that, they could benefit too. There's actually a lot, that's a really common mechanism for a lot of really heavy Euros, these kind of stock mechanisms. And this is kind of, I guess, sort of a nice gateway introduction to it. I mean, Jen and I liked it. I remember thinking that it worked okay with 2, but I really need to play it again because I hardly remember it at all. But anyway, obviously it wasn't good enough to keep it, so we kept it. That's Airlines Europe. Augustus, or as it's called in America, Rise of Augustus. This game is awesome. It is one of the ultimate gateway games out there right now. It's still fun, even if you're a gamer, but we have now played this with several people who have visited us, and they all love it. In a nutshell, this is bingo mixed with ancient Rome as we try to expand the reach of the Emperor Augustus. Or, the Caesar Augustus. And, it is. When I say bingo, I'm not kidding at all. Everybody has a set of bingo cards, and somebody is drawing chips from a hat that, they aren't letters and numbers. Instead, they're like cross swords and chariots and stuff like that. And when something, gets drawn that is on one of your bingo cards, you put a little marker on it. And you're trying to complete these sets of marks so that you can activate these cards. It sounds really simplistic, but it is amazing. There's actually, probably the reason this is a really great gateway game There's many reasons, but never mind the fact that everybody can immediately understand how to play because everybody understands bingo. But this is the kind of game where, at first couple turns are like, well, I don't know, which one should I choose? But before too long, players get to where they can make their own strategic decision. This something just clicks, and everybody can appreciate it. Wonderful game, absolutely fantastic. Definitely warranted the nomination for the Spiel des Jahres last year, and it lost out to Hanabi, but I think it was definitely a worthy competitor. I would have been happy if it won, although Hanabi was a good win too. Okay. Oh my gosh, Thunderstone. Ugh, I cannot tell you how heavy this box is. This is my Thunderstone Dragonspire game, which let's just open it. No, we don't do this, but might as well. Which, as you can see, has quite a few cards. And that's not all of them, because skipping ahead, you will see I got another box of cards that will be in part 4. Tons and tons of Thunder cards. This actually, I'm proud to say, as of last week, represents a 100% complete collection of all Thunderstone prior to Thunderstone Advance. When Thunderstone Advance came out, I said, okay, to heck with it, I'm going to stop collecting Thunderstone because I've got enough base Thunderstone. I don't want to jump. It was interesting. They kind of gave me a jumping off point where I could say, I don't need to collect Thunderstone anymore. I've got more than enough. I can't tell you how heavy this box is. Oh, a lot of cards, and it's complete. We finally got the werewolves the other day. Very, very excited about that. But anyway, it's a very good game. It's a deck builder. It really apes a lot of what Dominion does, but adds several new things. And well, heck, we like it a lot. We do take the Thunderstone Advance rule of being able to rest to kind of manage your hand. I think that's a really, really great addition. But otherwise, I didn't see anything that was in the Advance rules that warranted us jumping over to Advance. So I'm just happy with my 100% complete selection of Thunderstone 1.0. The Gole Piraten, or the Sewer Pirates. This is a neat game. I've done a run-through for this. Oh, I should say I also did a run-through for Augustus and New Amsterdam and Suburbia. I've done a run-through for this game. You probably haven't heard of it. It hasn't really gotten a lot of attention, but it's a really cool game that you could play this. It comes with a simple version and an advanced version. So you could play this with your kids who would love it because it comes with these amazing minis of mice and, and like a little... frogs and toads and snails. There's this cast of characters, and it's basically a game of hopscotch where you're putting your characters down and trying to hop over other characters to get to the front of the ship so you can get all the booty, because you're basically a bunch of sewer pirates riding around the sewer trying to get what sewer rats and whatnot consider treasure. It might sound a little gross, but the minis are really cute. Even the cockroach is adorable. And then when you play at the more advanced level where all the characters have unique special powers, it's actually a fun game. Really, really clever. Sewer Pirates. I've done a run through for it. La Air Postale, which is, this is basically, haven't played this yet, picked it up at Essen, and actually I hadn't really known much about it. I kind of got a spur of the moment thing because I really like the idea. It is a game about the early days of the Postal Service in the air. So it's about managing your air fleet and delivering mail. I was a mailman in college, so I'm always interested in the subject matter. And all I know is it has a really cool looking board. Can't wait to give it a try. La Air Postale. All right, I have no idea why we own Gladiatori. I got this actually last year at Essen 2011, and we have not played it. We've had this for over a year, and we have not played it. I got it kind of on spur of the moment too, and it's a very straightforward. It looks like a pretty straightforward, arena gladiator arena combat game, which is not so only the kind of thing Jen and I would like. If I recall correctly, the thing that really attracted me was there's a huge amount of customization you can do, so you can really put a lot of yourself into your gladiator. Honestly, I would not get this now that I don't, but when I had a full-time job and I was making a lot of money making video games, I could get anything I want, so I just kind of got it because it kind of tickled my fancy. I really need to play it someday. The minis for it only recently showed up, and I've been waiting forever for the minis to show up. Now I don't have an excuse not to play it. I don't know if we're going to like it though, but we'll see. Gladiatori. CO2, have done a run-through for this. This is an excellent game, one of the best games of last year, and it's a game all about global or climate change, I should say, and players represent power companies that are trying to build green power plants all over the world, in Africa and Asia and Australia and and America. Oh, that's, I think, Russia, I point out. And replace the old, outdated, carbon-burning ones and trying to save the world. It's a really heavy economic simulation, smart business simulation, lots of stuff going on. But the thing that actually probably makes it the coolest is this is a semi-cooperative game done right. There's a lot of semi-co-op games that come out. I talked about them a bit in some of the other ones like Castback. And the way semi-co-op is normally done is they try to make a co-op game that's you have to work together. It's 100% co-op, and then at the end, whoever earned the most points wins. That's a terrible way to do semi-co-op. The way you do semi-co-op is what CO2 does. You make a competitive game, very, very, where everybody's working their best to try to win, and then set it up so that every once in a while, maybe 2 or 3 times over the course of the game, an event will happen that if players don't temporarily work together, the whole game will be lost forever. Everybody. And that just creates such an amazing amount of tension in this game. We're working, we're trying to one-up each other, and this game is really amazing with all the systems it has. Again, I've done a run-through for it. You'd have to watch that. I can't do it justice in a quick summary. But all these systems where we have a lot of interplay and we're trying to get one step ahead and be the smartest business running, but then all of a sudden, oh crap, next year, if we don't work together and take out those coal plants over there, the world will die. And so suddenly we have to put our competitiveness aside and work together. And then after that's over, go back to competing. Brilliant game. Absolutely love it. Amazing. One of our favorite games, actually, CO2. Confusion from Stronghold Games. I should go over there with my other I really should have arranged because it's another one of these Stronghold games that has a very strange box size. This is a classic game from the early 80s that was republished by Stronghold. Jen loves this game. This would probably be one of her favorites. I think it's pretty neat, but Jen absolutely loves it. Basically, you have these big, gigantic, super thick, they're kind of like domino tiles, double thick domino tiles, that are sort of on a chessboard that represents the world, and you're moving them around, and each one has different, you can see like that one can move forward or backwards, but only in diagonals in different ways. And this one can move forward, but it can move backwards or left or right, but it can't move forward diagonally. So, all the different pieces have different movement things, and you're trying to move them around to grab this briefcase and get it over to your side of the map. Very simple, straightforward, abstract. What makes the game very interesting is when you're playing, this would be the point of view of the board from the red player. The red player cannot see how his pieces move. The red player can see how the white player moves. And so I've got all these pieces. Now you imagine a game of chess where you have no idea what your pieces are, and you just start trying to move them to try and figure out, what is this? What can it do? And so if Jen tried to move this piece that she can't see, she doesn't know what it is, and she tried to move it forward diagonally to the left, I'd say, it can't move that way. And then the game comes with this cool notebook that you can write with a dry erase marker, where Jen would make note that, her O piece cannot move diagonally forward. And so she over time, you start to deduce what your pieces are. And because it's confusion, you don't have really good line of communication with all your spies out in the field. So you have to figure out who your spies are. And then the tricky thing is, one of the spies is a lie. So if I move this one, Jen could lie and give me false information about it. It's a brilliant, brilliant mind screw of a game. Jen absolutely loves it. I think it's really neat too. Really, it's worth looking out for. Beautiful components. Stronghold did a beautiful job of confusion. Okay, 13 minutes, second. Oh, brother. Okay, K2, great game. I'm shocked I haven't done a run through for this because it's great. This is another good game you could use as a gateway because it's a really interesting theme all about racing to climb to the top of K2, dealing with weather, dealing with the fact that if you're not careful, you could freeze to death up on the mountain, and trying to stay alive, make it up, and make it back, or not make it back down, but stay alive. Very, very cool game. I'll pull it out. Really, really nice art. It's a hand management game where every turn, basically, you have a small handful of cards, and you play them. Those cards either have you move up the mountain, move down the mountain, or acclimatize, which is to say you kind of try to get used to the cold. The weather is always changing. There's this, or is it? There's here somewhere. Oh, up here. The weather is always changing. You can see a forecast for what's happening for the next few days. So you know when a storm is coming in and you have to get to shelter. You can build tents. It's a great, great thematic game. And it was designed by a guy who I believe, the designer of this, has actually climbed K2 himself. So you really do feel, the thing that's most amazing about it is you feel like you are making choices that put you on K2. There's very little that's abstract about this. It's life and death. It's very dramatic, very exciting. A really fun race game that you could play with anybody. Anybody would be able to play this game with a very minimal setup time and very easy to explain. Ark Noah. Haven't played this yet. Picked this up at Essen. All I know is it is a game about populating Noah's Ark and trying to get the male and the female animals matched up. And I believe the Ark itself is a big grid, and you're trying to build pens and maneuver traffic and whatnot. Don't know much about it. Looks like a cool game. Looking forward to it. That's all I can say at this point for Ark and Noah. D-Day dice. Oh, this, I thought I was never going to get a copy of this game because I missed the Kickstarter where the base game was supplemented with about 5,000 expansions that'll never be released again. But then somebody in England wanted to trade me my copy of Rushafart for D-Day dice with the full set. So this box is full to the brim of tons and tons of stuff. And what's the game itself? It's basically a pretty simple dice game where you are trying to work your way up the beach in D-Day and fight Nazis. Haven't played it yet, even though I've been so excited to have it for so long, and really looking forward to it. It's a cooperative game, I believe. Yeah, where we're working cooperatively, trying to defeat the Nazis, rolling dice. And apparently it's a very, very popular game. Although some people say it's really kind of shallow. I don't know, I can't wait to try it though. D-Day dice. I can put these back now. Oof. Oh boy. Concordia. I've done a run through for this. Don't think I'll spend much time on it other than to say it's from Matt Gertz. It's his latest game. It's his first one, or maybe not his first one, but one of his few. He doesn't use the rondel. And it's a very, very cool card management game where you are helping the Roman Empire expand all over Europe and score lots of points. It's a little bit on the abstract side, but the mechanisms in this game are second to none. I was really amazed by this game. One of the best of this year that has come out of Essen that I've played so far. And if you'd like to know more, you can just watch the run-through for it. Also on a run-through for Middle-earth Quest. I won't spend much time on it, other than to say this is a big, gigantic board. I can't tell you how big this board is. It's so huge. Comes with lots of really beautifully articulated minis and 1.5 billion little rules. This is an Ameritrash game through and through. And probably the reason Jen and I keep it, because normally we don't care for that sort of thing, is because it's very asymmetrical. One player plays Sauron, trying to pursue a bunch of agendas that he's spread all over the map, and the other player is the heroes of Middle-earth. Not the ones you know from Tolkien's works, but kind of similar ones, because this takes place in the years between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, so it's got a whole cast of characters. But you run into Gandalf and Aragorn and all the characters you come and know, even if you're playing Argalad instead of... Oh, but it's a pretty neat game, pretty long, ridiculously huge, takes up way too much table space, and, very, very luck of the draw, very, very Ameritrashy, but we still enjoyed it anyway. We keep it around. Middle-earth Quest. Oh, I am so lucky to have gotten this. This game came out when the Star Wars Episode 1 came out, and from Avalon Hill, and it's actually a fairly heavy, not heavy, a fairly lightweight war game. It's card-based, kind of like Battle or Memoir 44, set in that recreates the end of Star Wars Episode 1, where the Gungans are fighting the droids, the princess and her royal guard are trying to make it through the palace to get to, I forget what the bad guys, the chancellor of the Trade Federation, so they're fighting their way up through this big 3D thing, and meanwhile Anakin is flying around in outer space blowing stuff up, basically getting lucky, much like the movie actually. It's kind of cool. And Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan are fighting Darth Maul in an epic duel, and this is where Anakin is flying around. And so there's these 4 battles going on at the same time, just like at the end of the movie, and one player is the bad guy, one player is the good guy, and you really have multiple fronts you're fighting on. It's an amazing looking game once you have it all set up, because it's this big 3D thing, and I'm pretty rock solid gameplay too. I should do a run through for it one day, although actually it would be kind of mean to do it because it's almost impossible to get. The only reason I have a copy is when I first moved to Malta, there's a store, I forget the name of it, which is basically kind of a Warhammer and Magic the Gathering store. They had a few board games, and off in the corner, they had a copy of this still in shrink for retail price. They had no idea that this thing is worth well over $200. So I bought it at store value. I was so happy the day that happened. Very, very lucky. Okay, moving on to shelf number 3 at 20 minutes. Hi, Honey Pie. Okay, Rolling Freight, I've done a run through for this. This is a very, very cool, very heavy, kind of at the same level of Railways of the World or Steam. Maybe not quite as heavy as Steam or Age of Steam, but a pretty heavy train simulation where you are building train routes basically on the western half of the continental United States using dice. And so it comes with a whole bunch of special bespoke dice that you can use to, depending on what you roll and what color, you can lay down track all over the place, ship goods left, right, and center. Really, really cool game. Very heavy, a lot of fun. Rolling freight. Sorry, I'm starting to pick it up now, particularly because I've already done a run through for this. Done a run through for Fortuna. Another really nice gateway-ish game about ancient Rome, and everybody has this score track where they're following this road leading up to Rome, trying to be the first to get into the center of Rome. And you do it by playing all these cards that are all around the board. It's a really, really neat game. Very, very fun. Who designed it? It was designed by somebody. Shoot, I can't remember who these designers are. Oh, I'm very, very sorry. I'll put a note on screen because these designers have a really good pedigree, even though I can't remember what it is. It's a fun game. It's a light game, a good gateway game. We enjoy it. You can watch the run through. Fortuna. Heroes of Might and Magic. Haven't played this yet. But this is Might and Magic Heroes, which is literally the board game adaptation based on the computer game Heroes of Might and Magic, which is one of Jen's and my favorites from back in the day. We absolutely loved it. This purports to capture all the gameplay of that classic PC game. It's a game where basically you have your own personal army and you rove around a randomly generated landscape, fighting bad guys, capturing treasure, and building up your kingdom. Very straightforward. Can't wait to try it. Love the video game. We'll see how good the board game is. Canterbury, I've done a run through for this. This is a very dry, very abstract, but still very, very good city building game where players, it's basically an area control game where players are racing to try to get control over these different blocks of the city that they build. There's a lot of, not attack interaction, but interaction where everything I do affects everything you do. And the game itself, its core mechanisms are really smooth and really elegant and really simple. So it has a really rich, deep player space with a bunch of really simple rules. Really like it. From Andrew Parks, who's one of the hot designers in America right now, Canterbury. I've done a run through for it. You can watch more. Florenza, I've not done a run through for. I've done a run through for Florenza, the card game, and I just picked this up at Essen. So I'm looking forward to playing it. I don't know much about it. It's a kind of a standard Euro, getting artisans to build beautiful architectural wonders in Europe kind of thing. All I know is it's very long. We like the card game. Can't wait to try the board game. We'll be getting to that one pretty soon, actually, because it's a request from a Rahdo Runs Through backer. Florenza. Bremerhaven. Now, I'm sorry again to say I know nothing about this, other than I love, love, love the artwork of, who is this artist? I remember his name, but he's the one who did the artwork for Le Havre and Agricola. Oh yeah, Clemens Franz. There we go, Clemens Franz. And so it's a bit shallow, but every time he does the art for a game, I'm instantly interested. I'm also interested in this because it comes from Lookout Games, and they seem to have really, really good taste. All I know is it's an economic simulation in the port city of Bremerhaven. Ships are coming in and going out. While they're there, you try to make the best of it before they leave. Heavy economic sim, or maybe probably medium weight. Don't really know. Looking forward to it. Haven't tried it yet. Bremerhaven. The 3 games of Anton Bauza that we own: Rampage, Seven Wonders, Ghost Stories. Haven't done a run through for any of them. We'll be doing one for Rampage pretty soon. We've played it. It's you've probably heard about this game. It's the one where you set up this 3D board with meeples used as kind of like the support structure for a bunch of buildings, and then you use your little Godzilla monsters. You move them around by flicking discs, and then dropping the Godzilla monsters to destroy these buildings, or flick things at them, or blow on them. All kinds of funky, cool, fun stuff with special powers and abilities. It was pretty neat. We definitely laughed a lot while we were playing it. Although honestly, as a 2-player game, I don't know if we're really going to play it that much. If we had a lot of party gaming situations, this would be awesome. But as a 2-player game, the jury's still out on whether we're going to keep it. But it's really clever, and we did enjoy it. Just don't know if it's enough to keep around for only 2. Seven Wonders, an awesome game. This is in my top 10, I believe. Yep. And even though officially it only supports 3 to 7, this has an official 2-player variant that is awesome. Someday I'm actually going to do a run through, because a lot of people say the 2-player variant is bad, but that's ridiculous. It's awesome. This game we actually enjoy more as a 2-player game than we do with any other player count, because of the way the 2-player system works. The game itself is a really very straightforward game. It's not a gateway. A lot of people say it is, but it's not. But it's a really nice game. That is all about drafting cards and building up your ancient civilization, focusing on warfare or commerce or various and sundry things. Really, really cool game. One of the most popular games out there, and it plays great too. Don't let anybody tell you different. Someday I'll prove it in a run-through. Seven Wonders. And then Ghost Stories. Now actually, I like this game quite a bit, but Jen doesn't. I've traded away in the past. I've gotten it again because my backers want to see me do a run-through. So I will be doing a run-through soon. This is basically set in a, what do you call it, kind of a kung fu B-movie Chinese film of ancient ghosts that are attacking this very colorful village, and players cooperatively run around in this 3x3 grid. You can see right here in the center, fighting off these waves of scary ghosts, you know, Chinese ghosts that keep coming and attacking. The thing that the game's probably best known about is it is unrelenting. It just never stops hitting you. The ghosts never stop coming. You're always under the gun. You're always just one step away from brutal, dismal, explosive failure. And if you win, you need a little bit of luck and a lot of smarts. Jen did not enjoy it because she does not enjoy the constant, non-stop pressure. She likes her co-op games to have an ebb and flow. This is all flow, no ebb. But I'll be doing a run-through for it soon. It's still a pretty cool game, very fast and fun. I enjoy it. Ghost Story. And finally, on this floor, we got Palmyra from designer Bernd Eisenstein, one of our favorite designers, one of my favorite designers. Haven't played it yet, got it at Essen, don't know much about it other than use your military to expand your territory in the name of Rome, and then you use your, what are they called, your sensors to collect tax on that land you've expanded. So I imagine there's probably a bit of tension between how much do I expand, how much do I collect tax so I can expand more and stuff like that. Looks like a pretty simple game. Haven't played it yet. Very excited about it, though. We'll be doing a run through before too long, probably in the new year, for Palmyra. Okay, now I gotta stand up. Let's get up. Alrighty, we're at 25 minutes and actually doing pretty good, about halfway through. Okay. Viticulture. This is a very neat game. This is a, well, alrighty, I'll take the box out. Everybody wants to see the box. I've done a run through for this video, actually. And, should have taken that sleeve off. There we go. Hello, Viticulture. This is the strategic game of winemaking. And you can see, basically, it's all about, you know, these grape orchards that everybody has access to. And it's a worker placement game where you're placing workers to, well, basically do all the stuff you would have to do when running a your own vineyard, you know, with the end goal of making wine. It's a really, really solid worker placement game with a couple of, you know, nice twists on the worker placement theme. The biggest one being half your workers can only go in the summer months, half of them go in the winter months, and so you have to do a bit of advanced planning. There's a lot of strategy, and the nice thing about it is the default rules, we had a couple of problems with them, but the designer has actually released a 2.0 set of rules. If you haven't gotten them yet, definitely check them out. That fixed all our problems that we had with that game. So that was Viticulture. Great, great game from a great, great designer. And I'll stop right there because I got to keep moving. Ground Floor. I've done a run through for this also, although I only did a run through of a print and play copy I made that looked like crap, but still definitely shows how the game plays. This is a economic simulation where you are running a very, very big international corporation making, whatever, pretty much whatever you want to say you're making, whether it's widgets or magazines or who knows. But it models all the details of trying to run this big corporation and expand. You can tell your corporation is getting bigger because you literally build these additional floors onto your building, and that gives you more space to put more offices that allows you to do more worker placement either on your own space or out on the shared space out on the main board. Really good, solid economic game. Very much enjoy it. Ground Floor. Okay, which I just dropped. Sorry about that. Oh dear. That wasn't good. Okay, Upon a Fable. I've done a run through for this. This is a Kickstarter game. This is maybe one of the ultimate gateway games in that it takes it's a worker placement game set in a fairy tale fantasy world where players are using their workers to cast spells and weave dreams and all kinds of lovely, fun, fluffy stuff. And the game is the theme. And the game itself is a very straightforward, streamlined version, kind of Agricola, where you've got all the this big storybook open where you can place all your workers to do different things like convert a wonder or add a small realm or play cards or collect wishes and all kinds of stuff. Really, really fun game. It also features card drafting, very, very similar to Seven Wonders. So it has these like two disparate gameplay elements of Agricola style, building your own workspace where you can place your workers and getting more and more powerful, but also card drafting. Fun game, really, really quick to play, great gateway game. That is Upon a Fable. Okay, Fantastiqa. I've done a run through for this one. This is a deck builder. Well, actually, if you're at all familiar with Mage Knight, which is a deck builder that is hugely, ridiculously, overwrought with complexity, Fantastiqa is like the simple gateway version of Mage Knight. You have a very simple map of this fantasy realm that you move your characters around, and it's a deck builder. So you have a deck of cards that say you want to get past this, you're here and you want to move over here and you want to get past this troll. A troll can be beaten with, I think, with a club. So if you have any clubs in your hand, you can beat the troll, move over here, and then that troll gets added to your deck. And actually, I think the troll gives you the club, and I forget, what is it, or maybe it's food? Yeah, that's what it is. Oh, actually, I say this witch. The witch, if you get the witch and add it to your deck, it gives you the ability of flight and it gives you a broomstick. But to beat the witch, you have to have a pail of water. And where do you get the pail of water? I don't think there are any, but there are other characters you could beat that will give you the pail of water. So you're basically building your deck all the time by getting these creatures and adding them to give you special abilities to beat other ones as you travel around this very simple map, picking up, trying to complete quests. It's a really simple, straightforward game that you could teach anybody really quickly. I would say it's a better introduction to deck building than Dominion is, because the cards don't have a ton of reading. It's a really simple, straightforward, streamlined game, and we enjoy it quite a bit. Fantastiqa. This is from the same designer as Fantastiqa, Mr. Alf Siegert. The Road to Canterbury is a very funny game. It is a game where we are literally on the road to Canterbury, Canterbury's Tales. Basically, as partners, it is our job to stand on the road and talk to all the pilgrims and say, hey, you know what, you want to go to heaven? We'll basically sell you this thing that will get you into heaven. We will pardon you for your sins. And basically, it's kind of a set collection game where we're trying to do this. But at the same time, we're also trying to tempt these pilgrims into committing the sin that we can then pardon them for. It's a really, really clever, clever game. Very satirical, fun. Only goes up to 3, interestingly, but plays well with 2. We really enjoy Road to Canterbury. Prosperity. Haven't played this yet. It is from Reiner Knizia. It's his big designery game of the year, and it's actually co-designed by Sebastian Bleasdale. And Sebastian Bleasdale was the designer of our absolute favorite, our #1 game from 2012, Keyflower. So this is basically from the designer of Keyflower and Reiner Knizia, the designer of almost everything. We're really excited about it. Haven't tried it yet. I know it's like a near future game where we are trying to, be economically successful cities, I believe, but trying to deal with pollution. So it deals a lot with pollution as we expand our cities and whatnot. That's all I know, but the designer pedigree is second to none. Can't wait to try it. Myrmes, have done a run through for this. This is a game where it's a worker placement game where you are running an ant colony, and it is, I'm not going to say it's a hyper realistic, because I've never run an ant colony, but it really does feel like all the game mechanisms are really beautifully intertwined into the theme. And you're making decisions about, how to, as the queen of this ant colony, how to run it, how to, when to send your soldier ants out, and, how to collect food and where to breed, and dealing with the different seasons. And the other thing about it too, it's a very harsh game. This game is very challenging. If you're not careful, it can really beat you up. But Jen and I like the challenge. We love the theme. It's a really, really rock-solid game, Myrmes, which I think is Latin for ant or something like that. Anyway, Olympos. This is an interesting game. This is a war game without any war. So you can see it's a map of the area around ancient Greece, and players are basically spreading their influence throughout, and we can fight each other for the different regions and whatnot. And the regions generate resources, and we can use those resources to advance in technologies that give us special powers that ultimately at the bottom of the resource tree, because we work our way down this resource tree, so we can get like big ancient wonders. It scores a lot of points at the end of the game. And meanwhile, the ancient gods, Zeus and Apollo and everybody, can interfere with our plans. It uses the same time turn order track that Thebes does, where if you make a really big heavy move, you won't get to move again until other players have made a lot of little small moves. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. And while there is a lot of conflict, it doesn't really feel very conflict. Jen and I actually really enjoy it a lot, because you never really feel like any of the land you've grabbed is yours. You feel like you're kind of borrowing it, and then somebody else just borrows it from you. It's a really, really fun, solid game. I've done a run through for it. Recommend very highly Olympos. Here's another one I've done a run through for. Police Precinct, which is a cooperative game, has a gigantic map. Is this the whole map? wow, it doesn't really, this does not do justice just how gigantic this map of the city with these 8 city blocks are. And basically you're in a cop car driving around on the streets, every turn, dealing with muggings and break-ins and hostage situations and all kinds of stuff that make you drive from one side of the city to the other and back again. And you have to work, traffic jams, you have to work on this stuff cooperatively because you're really focusing on 2 things. Keeping the city from descending into chaos because of all the crime that's popping up all over the place, and also investigating a murder because you only have so many turns before the murderer escapes justice and you lose. So it's a really interesting game where you have to kind of split your attention. And I think probably this would be a bit more interesting with more than 2. With 2, it pretty much comes down to, okay, one person is going to work on the murder, the other person will just do cleanup work. I think with more players, it'd be a little bit more interesting. But still, Jen and I enjoy it fairly well. And expansion for it is coming out pretty soon, which I'm hoping will make it a little bit more exciting for a 2-player, although we still enjoy it. Anyway, though, that was Police Precinct. I've done a run-through for it. All right, getting close, folks. Loire. This is... Did I mention down there that I used to be a mailman, and so I'm really interested in mailman-related board game topics? There's the airport one. This is another game that is all about the early formative days of delivering mail, although I think this one is done by horseback. I don't know much about it. It's, in 1477, the French King Louis XI created the Royal Mail Service, and so we are actually trying to deliver mail in 1477 in France. I don't know much about it, but I'm really excited to give it a try because, again, I have a personal predilection towards the subject matter, Loire. Ninjato, which is a ninja simulation, and there's no real picture of the board, unfortunately. Supposedly, it's actually pretty good. You're sneaking around this Japanese town as ninjas, staying in the darkness, trying to avoid the samurai guards, and when their backs are turned, either fighting the guards or more likely sneaking past the guards, and when their backs are turned, getting in and carrying out assassinations and other sorts of royal intrigue. Don't really know much about it, haven't played it yet. Like the subject matter, seems like it's a board game version of, what was that old video game that I used to play on the PlayStation 1? Tenchu? No, not Tenchu. Oh, I don't remember. I'll have to look it up. I'll put a note on the board, but on the video. But this looks like a very, very cool game. Can't wait to give it a try. Tash-Kalar. Have done a run-through for this. This is an arena combat game that has absolutely no arena combat in it because it's a very abstract version of it where... Well, in this game, players play wizards who put magical runes out in this courtyard, and when you put them in the correct patterns... like these little patterns over here I have on the cards, they temporarily summon big gigantic monsters that destroy all the runes out on the board. I almost kind of like it. If you've ever played the newer Final Fantasy games, when you do a summoning and one of those big gigantic monsters gets summoned, comes out, does a lot of damage and then disappears, that's what this game is like. You're constantly summoning these big monsters by creating the right magical patterns, and it's a really interesting game. Eugene and I don't normally like wizard duel games. We love this one though because the puzzle is so interesting and so intricate. We really get caught up in the theme of it and enjoy it quite a bit. But watch the video of it. It's going to do a much better job of getting you an idea of what Tash-Kalar is all about. Have not done a run through for Galaxy Trucker, although I will be. Oh, this box is heavy. There's a lot of stuff in here. This is a very, very cool game. It plays in real time where in real time, there's no picture of it here, but there's a bunch of tiles that are all face down that represent pieces of a ship. And you're grabbing them as fast as you can and trying, before time runs out, to build a space truck that can fly around the galaxy and pick up and deliver things. Now, the main part of the game is building this truck in this real-time, crazy, hectic thing where you're trying to find the right pieces that can connect to the other pieces, because if you don't, like over here, this is a place where there was no piece, and so that's an exposed section of your ship that could be damaged by asteroids. Except, hey, what do you know? They happen to have a shield that's facing in that direction. And you put guns on, and you put rocket boosters on, and you put in places for the crew and whatnot. It's a funny, silly, fast-paced game. Now, some people complain that what happens in the first half of the game, you build your ship, and then the second half of the game, you go through this series of events where your ships go around, and a lot of people say the second half of the game is very boring, and I always say, well, you don't understand. The second half of the game is not the second half of the game. This is the game, and then this is just scoring. This is a very elaborate version of, well, how well did my ship score? It's like an interactive storytelling, a story-based version of doing your final score after you've built your ship. It's a hilarious game, very fun, very frantic. We love it a lot. Galaxy Trucker. Hawaii, I've done a run-through for this. I'll let the video speak for itself, but Jen and I love this one a lot. It's a very interesting and innovative goods collection game where you're running around on the big island of Hawaii trying to find all the stuff that all your townsfolk need on your little island of Hawaii and then take it back so you can make your townsfolk happy. It's I'm going to disagree with certain popular board game personalities and say it is a thematically rich, very thinky, hugely fun game that really, when Jen and I play it, it just puts smiles on our face because it is all about joy and happiness in Hawaii. Fun game. Watch our run through. We love it a lot. Vikings, done a run through for this, or Wikinger. I've got the German version. Long out of print game. A lot of people would love to have it. It's hard to get. Supposedly maybe a reprint will be coming someday soon, but it's not really about what you'd expect from Vikings. It's not about, looting and pillaging and whatnot. It's actually about building colonies, new Viking colonies, and protecting those colonies from raiders. It's a tile placement game, as you can see, where you're building your little islands and putting different types of Vikings on that will, gather resources for you or protect you, like these black, this black Viking there protects every Viking underneath him from the attackers who come from up here. So that's one half of the game is the tiling. The other half is getting the tiles on this rondelle where you can see this thing in the center spins, and so the price of all these tiles is constantly changing. Very cool game, a lot of fun. Watch the video of Vikings. Stone Age. A lot of people consider this the ultimate gateway, and I'm not going to disagree. It's a good gateway. Basically, if you're not familiar with it, it's a gorgeous board set in not caveman times. It's post caveman, and early villages and farming and whatnot. And every turn you roll dice to try to find what kind of resources you'll be able to gather, whether it's clay or gold or wood, and then use those resources that you've rolled with the dice to build expansions to your city or build tools so that you have more control over the dice you roll, or get point scoring things. It's a really simple, straightforward game. It's good fun. Jen likes it a lot. I think it's okay. But it's very, very good at what it's supposed to do. It's a great gateway. You could play this with anybody. This is a great game. I don't think anybody would be put off by the subject matter. If you've got people coming over and you'd like to introduce them to board games, you could do a lot worse than Stone Age. Santa Cruz. Done a run through for this one. Neat game about exploring an island. And basically you have a bunch of cards. You use them to play to explore these spots along the coast or up the river or along the roads. And the first half of the game is interesting in that it's a race to try to discover, flip all these tiles to find out what all the different buildings are where you can score points. And then what happens for the second half of the game? Once you know where everything is, you then have to you use a deck of cards to explore the island. Then, after the island's been explored, you get that same deck of cards again, and now there's no exploration. Now you know where everything is, and you have to be but you also know what cards your opponent has, and so it becomes this really interesting mind game for the second half where you have perfect knowledge, or almost perfect knowledge, and you're trying to use that to outmaneuver your opponent. Great game. Santa Cruz, I've done a run through for it. This is Industrial Waste, or Müll Money. Haven't played it yet. It's been out of print for a long time. I don't know if it's going to be very easy to get, but all I know is it is about running factories and dealing with industrial waste. Supposedly it's a very, very good economic industrialization simulation. Can't wait to try it. Industrial Waste, or Müll Money. I've definitely done a run through for Palaces of Carrara, which was another one of the best games of last year. I think did it make my top 10? Yes, it did. It did make the top 10. And it was also nominated for the Kennerspiel des Jahres too. Deservedly so. Great game where you spend half of your attention trying to gather the right resources, the right types of marble you need on this spinning platform where the prices are constantly changing. Actually, very, very similar to Vikings in that regard because, hey, what do you know? Matthias Kiesling, or Michael Kiesling worked on both of these games. So some of the ideas that are in Vikings have reappeared here, this spinning thing where the prices are constantly changing, and then you're getting the resources to actually build all these different cities, and you're trying to build the right cities and the right combinations to score a lot of points. And the thing that makes it really cool is at the beginning of the game, cards are drawn that give completely different win conditions and scoring conditions. So every time you play this game, you're going to be focusing on different things. It's going to feel very, very unique and different. Absolutely love Palaces of Carrara. And now we're up to here. Oh, I was almost done, but this is going to take a while. There's a whole bunch of little guys in here. That's why I've been clearing this space out so I can just put them in here so you can still see them. All right, first of all, here's all these rune bounds. Let's look at one of them. See, have I already talked about Runebound? I think I did, didn't I? No. I'll be talking about Runebound later. It's down there in part 4. But I have so much Runebound stuff, I could not fit all these decks of cards, so I just leave them out here. It's actually 2 full stacks of these. Here's the first bunch, and then there's a whole bunch more back there. So I've got near infinite replayability of Runebound, but I'll talk more about Runebound in part 4. Okay, continuing on. Play-Doh 3000. Somebody just threw this in on a math trade. Oh, wait, no. I got this as a Kickstarter campaign reward when I got Glory to Rome, isn't it? Yeah. Haven't played it yet. I believe it's a trick-taking game with a twist. That's all I know about it. Trick-taking game we find generally doesn't work very well with 2, so we haven't been in a big rush to play it. But heck, it is a perfectly civilized card game for 2 to 4, so maybe it'll play great with 2. Have to try it someday. Play-Doh 3000. Handler der Karibik, which I think is like Merchants of the Caribbean. Merchant of the Caribbean. And I don't know much about this. I believe this is a card game where we are playing cards to build crews and get ships and explore and collect goods and trade in the Caribbean. This is a game that I got at Essen for almost nothing because you got this by making a donation to a museum. And as part of your donation, you got this as a reward. As far as I know, that's the only way you can get this game. So I'm not going to spend much time talking about it because heck, you can't get it anyway. Supposedly, the designer has gone online and said that they are trying to get a full publishing deal for it, so maybe it'll be coming soon. Don't know anything about it, but I was happy to pick one up for super cheap at Essen. Alrighty, what is this? This is Pentos. Haven't played it yet. Looks like a very simple card game where you're doing set collection stuff, trying to collect ingredient cards that will let you make potions that cast spells to score points. That's all I know. It's a very tiny box. It looks like it could be a lot of fun. I'm hoping it's something similar to Jaipur, which I'll be talking about in part 4, but I haven't tried it yet. Pentos. Drachen Schatten. Gotten this for super cheap on a... All I know is... Well, actually, I don't know anything. It's all in German. It's Dragon Hunter or something like that. Don't know anything about it. Just picked it up because it was like €4 as part of a big deal. And the same is true for Adlung Land, which is a card game where you're laying down cards, and again, no pictures of it, there's one picture, laying down cards to build a theme park, an amusement park. Love the theme. We're definitely going to try this someday. Just haven't gotten to it yet. Got it super cheap. Adlung Land. There's more of the Runebounds. Let's see. Adventure D. I have done a run through for this. This is an ugly game. Art-wise, I don't think anybody would accuse this game of being a gorgeous looking game. The art's very simple and primitive. Although I guess it has kind of a very primitive, childlike charm to it. But don't let the art fool you. This is an amazing adventure game. Plays fantastically solo, and we've also enjoyed it quite a bit competitively 2-player, and I believe, I've talked with the designer a little bit about it, I think you could really easily make a good co-op version of this game too. You lay out the cards to make this randomly generated world, and you have a handful of cards, and you have to discard cards to move around, but you don't want to discard the cards because you want to play the cards. It's that same Race for the Galaxy thing set in a, racing around on this 2x3 map, trying to level up your character as fast as possible so you can go defeat the big bad. Very simple, small game, tons of replayability because tons of different characters. The map will be different every time. Adventure to D, awesome, surprising little game. This is, when I got it, and I don't actually have the original pack for it because it came in a blister pack, I think, originally. It was called Eat or Be Eaten, but now I think it's called Food Chain. And this is a card game. It's very, very cool. It's very simple. You could definitely play this with kids or as a filler between big games. You have a handful of cards, like say I might have this bunny rabbit in a card. If I play this bunny rabbit could be eaten by foxes or kaya or wolves. And on the flip side, this bunny rabbit can eat berries. And somebody else might have played the berries. And so they play the berries and then I'll play the bunny rabbit. But then somebody else might try to eat my bunny rabbit. And so there's this game of constant one-upsmanship where at the top of the food chain you've got bears and whatnot. At the bottom of the food chain you've got berries. And you're trying to eat other people's cards to score points. But the weaker the animal that you actually capture in your hand, the more points they're worth. It's a really clever game, very fun. Food Chain, I definitely recommend it. Great for playing with families and also a good filler. Treasures and Traps. And most of my rubber band has broken. This is, a little expansion for it. But the base game is it's kind of a fluxy kind of game. Very cute, very funny, very silly. Just playing cards, trying to one-up each other. Stealing cards from each other. The landscape of the game is constantly changing. Mostly it gets by on its charm and its funniness. 2-player game is not really that interesting, but it's kind of it's a slightly heavier version of a Flux type of experience. If you're looking for that and you don't think Flux has enough, but you like the idea of it, you might want to try Treasures and Traps. Lemonade Stand. I've had this for a while, haven't played it yet. It's apparently a fairly cutthroat game of little kids doing lemonade stands and trying to undercut the opposition by getting the best sales, dealing with weather. There's going to be more sales on a sunny day, it's going to be worse on a cloudy day, and using special powers to mess with opponents. Don't know if we're going to like it, because we generally don't like that kind of mess with your opponent thing. It seems like it's kind of a lighter version of Jambo with a very, very cute, family-friendly setting. Looking forward to trying it someday. Lemonade Stand. Crooks. Got this because it was like €5 as part of another, wasn't really planning on much, but it turns out it's a really good game. Very, very clever game where you spend the most of the game trying to build up the hand of the right crooks to go on a heist. But you really never know exactly what your opponent is going to do, because we're playing all these cards in secret, and then finally at the end reveal, well, this is my crew and this is what they did. So there's a lot of bluffing, a lot of second guessing. Very, very thematic, very cool, surprisingly cool game. I definitely recommend Crooks. We got this at the same time. It's in the same type of tin. Crazy Creatures of Dr. Doom. Although I think it's called something else in America, because you can't say Dr. Doom in America because Marvel will sue you. Maybe Dr. Gloom, I think. And this one, again, we got it for $5. This one was not so. If we had kids, if you have, a 4 or 5 year old boy, definitely get this game and play with it, because it's all about, getting these wacky creatures and growing them from cute little babies into big scary monsters and scoring points. For 2 adults, there's absolutely nothing here, but it'd be a great game to play with kids. I'm looking to trade if anybody's interested in the Crazy Creatures of Dr. Doom. Goblins Drool, Fairies Rule. I was really nervous about this because this is another game that's really designed to be played with kids. But it's so sweet and so charming, and the art is so lovely. Jen and I like it anyway. Basically, you got all these cards that have little 2 or 3 word phrases. Full Moon Moo and Baby Blue, because they are either, and on one side it's a goblin, on the other side it's a fairy. And you've got these cards played out in front of you, and you have to play cards to pick up other cards, and the way you play them is you have to make them rhyme. So you could play Full Moon Moo in response to Baby Blue because they rhyme. And it's a really, really clever game where you're trying to get the right hand of cards, but the board is constantly changing. You're always looking for rhymes, and it's fun and sweet and charming because the art's gorgeous. And when you put these cards down, we always like saying, the card we're putting down and how it rhymes. It's kind of like you're constantly doing little snippets of poetry. Hanabi. This is the one that beat Rise of Augustus for the Spiel des Jahres, and this is an excellent game. Probably everybody knows about this by now. It's a game where people are cooperatively trying to put on a really great fireworks show, but the tricky thing is you can't see your hand. So you can see what everybody else's cards are, but you can't see your own, and you're having to work together, give each other very, very oblique, hard to follow clues, because there's very strict rules about the clues, to let somebody else know what's in their cards so they know whether it's safe to play their cards. Or do they give you clues? But when you run out of clues, somebody's going to have to take a wild guess and hopefully not screw everybody. Very cool, very tense game. An excellent, excellent game to play with anybody. We've had a lot of success with it. We'll always hold on to it. Oh, and it plays really fast, really well with 2 as well, which is not always the case. Okay, Fairy Tale. This is a card drafting game. For people who really like Seven Wonders and would like to have a new experience, definitely pick up Fairy Tale, because this is the card drafting game that came along before Seven Wonders. It's all about trying to get the right cards. The cards have a lot of interesting interactions, lots of icons. It's kind of a little hard to get into, but it's very smooth and very fast and very fun to play. Zularetto. I've only played this once. It's a nice Yahtzee-esque kind of game with animals on it. Yeah, it was okay. Trying to roll the right dice, get them into the trucks, to move them into your zoo to score points based on the right sets. It was neat, but it's not a replacement for Through the Ages, or Roll Through the Ages, but it's okay. Okay, the Tor der Welt, which is German for, what is it? The World's End, I think. This is a card game of the World's End. I've never played the full board game. I've always heard it doesn't work very well with 2, but supposedly the card game does, so we picked it up. Don't know anything about it. It's all in German. We'll have to eventually figure out how to play this thing. That's all I can say. Council of Verona. This is a lovely, what's called a micro game, where there's only, a handful, there's less than 20 cards in the whole game. And in this game, it's recreating the politics around Romeo and Juliet, as the Capulet and not the Romulans, the Montagues and the Capulets, or the Romulans, are trying to one-up each other by getting into the Council of Verona. And basically, you play these cards, and you put your little chits on the ones you think will make it to the end. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. And it's a really, really clever game. Better with more than 2. With 2, it's just okay, but it's definitely better with more. We like it a lot, although we don't play it that much, because with 2, it's just okay. But well worth seeking out if you have a game you can play with anybody in nice social situations. Würfel Bonanza or Bonanza dice game. Haven't played this yet. Haven't ever really played Bonanza because it requires 3 players. And so we're hoping that this has some of the feel of Bonanza, but is playable with 2. But don't really know anything about it. Haven't really played it yet. It is from Uwe Rosenberg, the same designer as Agricola and Le Havre and all that. So we'll try it someday. Just haven't gotten to it yet. Africa Park, I picked this up in a trade not too long ago. Don't know anything about it. I just read somewhere somebody said it was good. I got it for next to nothing. It was just kind of thrown into a trade, so I figured why not. Haven't played it yet. Oh, Onerim. This is a very neat game. Actually, probably better as a solitaire game, but it works pretty well as a co-op game too. It's a crazy dreamscape where you're trying to find keys to open doors to wake yourself up in these weird, surreal, very beautiful art cards. And again, it does have kind of the same sort of feel as a solitaire style game, where you're trying to collect the right cards with the right symbols to be able to get these keys to open the doors. And before the deck runs out, you have to get all the doors open or you will never wake up from the nightmare. Very, very neat game. Very trippy. And a pretty good co-op game. Derengi. I assume I'm saying that right. This is a very neat game of deduction. And it works pretty well with 2. Surprisingly so, where basically there's been a murder, which means some of the cards, the card with the murder weapon and the murder and all that, those are removed, and so those cards are out, and then everybody has a hand of cards, and you're trying to deduce, almost Go Fish style, who was the murder, all the particulars of the murder. Very, very cool game. My only complaint about it is there's so much information to keep track of. You really almost have to have like a pen and paper to keep track of everything as you're playing. But really, really neat, clever game. Great. Works, I think, plays up to 7. No, it plays up to 6. Fun, simple game of deduction, Derengi. I don't know anything about this game, Der Erbtante. It was thrown in when I made an order from a German online game store. They threw this in. I've never even opened it because it requires 3 players, so I'm never going to play it. Don't even know why I have it. If anybody's interested, let me know. Okie doke. Almost done with the little stuff. Let's see. This is Stone and Relic. I got the version that didn't come with a box because the original version of the game sold out very, very quickly. And then it turned out they had some extra cards but they didn't have the boxes, so they sold the game without the boxes. So I've just thrown it in this Agricola bag. Haven't played it yet, but apparently it's another one of these games that uses the card mechanisms of, well, I want to play this game or I can discard this card to play other cards. And so it's kind of like a medieval or age of industry version of Race Through the Galaxy. That's all I know. Haven't played it yet. Really looking forward to it. Stone and Relic. This is my prototype version of Monsters and Maidens, which is maybe my favorite, very simple, fast-playing dice chucking game. This one and zombie dice, they're both kind of the same thing. You just have a handful of dice, roll them Yahtzee style, try to score points. It's really, really quick. Zombie dice is very cute and funny. You roll the dice and they either roll shotgun shells, which means you get shot, or you roll brains, and that means you get to eat them, and you push your luck. This one's the same thing, but the reason I like this push your luck, other than all the other ones that are on the market, is because one player can play the monster and the other can play the maidens. And so on Jen's turn, when she's rolling and she's the heroes trying to rescue maidens, she's trying to roll heroes, but every time she rolls a monster, she scores points for me. And so you're just a little bit more involved on other players' turns. In this game, you're just snoozing, waiting for your turn again while everybody else is scoring points. In this game, you're always involved. Monsters and Maidens, very cool. Almost done. Eaten by Zombies. Cool box, this ammo case style thing. This is a deck builder where you are trying to build your deck to outrun a bunch of zombies. And it's really, really interesting because the game kind of has 2 halves. The first half of the game, you're building your deck as fast as you possibly can, throwing in weapons and items and whatnot. But while that's happening, the zombie horde is building, and you can put them off for a while, but sooner or later, the zombie stack will be so big that you can't ignore them anymore, and you have to start running and fighting, and they will start eating you alive. This game ends when the last person is left alive. Everybody's going to get eaten by zombies in this game. And it's just a deck builder that has such a radically different feel than Dominion or any of the other ones. It's really, it feels like a zombie thriller. You're just frantically scavenging, having little fights with them, but then eventually they'll outnumber you, and sooner or later you will get eaten, and the last person alive wins. It's a shame in a 2-player you can't do this, but with more than 2 players, when there are more players, once you get eaten, you're not out. You become a zombie, and then you hasten, you actually can win by being the best zombie. Or actually all the zombies are working competitive or cooperatively to try to defeat the remaining humans. So it actually has this really cool other element too, although as a 2-player game it doesn't happen. But even still, as a 2-player game, we very much enjoy this really unique take and very thematic take on deck building. Pax, another game from one of our favorite designers, Bernd Eisenstein. This is another one of those ancient Rome games where it's really interesting. Each player is a separate faction of a resistance force, being led by Spartacus, trying to, the slave revolt, the famous slave revolt, led by Spartacus. And we each have our own factions that we're trying to overthrow Rome. And so we're playing cards, getting influence, building our military strength. But here's the thing. In a 2-player game, there are effectively 3 players. Me, Jen, your opponent, and Rome. And what can happen is, if one player thinks, you know what? Spartacus revolt is not going to win. Rome is becoming so strong through a series of automated turns and whatnot. A player can say to heck with it and ally themselves with Rome and betray the alliance of the slave revolt. And then if Rome wins, that player wins. Very, very cool, clever, fast-playing dice game. Like it a lot. Pax. Okay, this is another one of those push your luck simple dice games like Zombie Dice, or and this one you're pushing your luck, rolling dice, trying to go deeper and deeper into a dungeon. It's a neat game. Everybody has unique special powers. It's fun, but I still think Monsters and Maidens is the best, because Monsters and Maidens is the one where even when it's not your turn, you're still potentially earning points. And I think that puts it at the top of the push your luck, super fast, simple dice rolling games. And the last one, Rule the Roost, Hen and Jenin. Only got this game because it has really cute artwork of chickens, and Jen loves chickens. Haven't played it yet though. Don't really know anything about it, but I know Jen loves chickens, so we'll play it eventually. And so there we go, folks. That was part 3, and that took an hour. Not surprising, because I knew there was going to be a lot of stuff right in that little space there. Hopefully the next one won't be quite so long, but there you go. And when I eventually do part 4, there'll be a button on screen so you can push to go to part 4. And in the meantime, there's not, so that was it. Push the button if it's there. If it's not, just have a very nice day. Have a very Merry Christmas. It's a couple days before Christmas. What, honey, are you hiding? Oh, Jen is hiding over there. Oh, she just hid under the couch because she hasn't done her hair, I guess. She wants to walk by. Okay, camera's off you, honey pie. Oh, there she goes. I caught her. All right. Yes. Anyway, that was part 3, parts 4 and 5 coming. Hopefully I'll get that done before the end of the year. Thanks for watching, everybody. Talk to you later. Have a good day. Bye-bye.